that isn't the right word, but then I was always a little in awe of him, and I didn't always want to please him, you know.
Well, is perhaps another reason that you didn't really have anything specific in your mind that you planned to do or wanted to do?
Well, you know, as I say, Dad just kind of arranged things for me, you know.
Because as I remember when I was that age, I didn't have a clue as to what I
Well,
might
that's
do.
it, you know, because he just, and of course it was all right with me. But I do remember one thing about you, Hank, and I think I've mentioned it to you before, about when I came home. And I don't, a ball. But the way I look back on it, you must have been about 12 when I came back from the mission field. And I came in the back door, and you came in from school, I guess it would have been, I don't know, but I was standing there in the back hallway. Then you came in and you cried. You stood there and you cried and cried, and I said, "What's the matter, Hank?" You said, "I don't know." And, you know, and that stands out. And I don't know why, but it does. And, you know, you were young enough. I didn't have very much. I just remembered wheeling you around in the baby buggy, that big old gray buggy that Mother had. I'd wheel you up and down the main street of Copley because you were so pretty. Oh, you were so gorgeous, Hank. Oh, you were so beautiful. And Mother dressed you so beautifully, and I always wanted to show you off, so I'd take you in the buggy and wheel you up and down that main street of Copley just to have people admire you because you were so gorgeous. Oh, you were pretty.
How did you make the decision to go out to San Francisco?
Well, I didn't. I went to Salt Lake to a wedding or something, Hank. As I remember, it was one of the missionaries that I'd been with or something. I drove down there while I was working for Tom Molesworth. I went down several times for different weddings because I always remember Becky and Mary Louise always went with me. Becky and Harriet, I guess it was. Mary Louise they were home, see, and they'd always drive down with me. We'd always go through Idaho Falls and down that way. And I don't remember whose weddings they were, but I mean, I remember going down 2 or 3 times. And I went down for a wedding. And what did it? I don't know, but somebody was out there. I guess it was because Marjorie was there or something. I don't know, but I decided while I was there, and I just called Dad and told him I was going. Wow. I don't know how I ever had the nerve. And you know, when I went into San Francisco, I got off the train, because of course there again it was that long ago. Or was it? Anyway, the cab picked me up. This man picked me up and he said, "Where do you want to go?" And I didn't know. And I can remember, just think what I could have got into, you know. But that cab driver just happened to be a nice man, and he told me that he thought he knew where I'd want to go. And I think what that could have meant even, see. But he took me to this hotel, and then of course I looked up Marjorie and I moved in with her. And I lived with her for quite a while. Because I was just dumb, but I just by that time had made up my mind I was going to have to do something with myself, you know.
Now, how long were you there before you got a job?
Oh, not very long. It wasn't hard. As I say, all this movement for the women and all this sort of thing just drives me crazy because for the reason that I never had any trouble in my life. I never have had any trouble, Hank, no matter what I wanted to do. Because when I've got a job, I mean, of course I had a good background for it, see. But I worked for O'Connor Moffett in their design studio. And later that store was taken over by Macy's, and that's Macy's in San Francisco now. But I was there most of the time. And then I went to W&J Sloan's. I never had any trouble. And so this business of, the women never had any opportunities, I never felt that. I always got what I wanted. I always did what I wanted. I never could figure that out. I was able to have a nice apartment and buy the clothes I wanted. And I just never, because of course my money went to clothes. I'm just female enough that I...
But it's not hard to figure out, really, because you mentioned one thing, you were well prepared, you had the right schooling.
That's right, and I guess that just had the influence.
But the other thing is that you have such a pleasing personality.
Oh,
You know, you just present yourself so unusually well. It's easy
Well,
to see that would always happen.
well, as I say, I've never had any trouble that way, so of course I just never have understood all this wrangling about it. But
Let's talk a little bit about your experience there and your workplace experience.
well,
Is it something you liked? Did you enjoy it?
oh yeah, I just loved it. And there again, I can see now if I had been a little older that I would have really been able to go places. But I was not old enough to realize what an opportunity it gave me. You know, oh, I could have just, but I just, see, because of course I was on a commission all the time, and I just made enough to do what I wanted to do, and I didn't care whether I
You were
made a lot of money, see.
Not very
For
ambitious.
instance, the woman that was in charge of the commercial accounts, that is, for doing hotels and like that. Now, of course, there weren't very many hotels in those days, you know, that was a long time ago. And so that sort of thing, but think of what I could have got into if I'd got into that. And she came to me one time, and she was leaving the firm or something, and she said, now, if you want me to, I'll teach you that, you know, how to buy and such for commercial accounts. And of course, I've had to learn that since then, but I mean, think of how long ago I could have learned that and really gone someplace with it. But I wasn't prepared to put that kind of time in, because it would have taken a lot of...
Well, that requires somebody with a very career-oriented.
That's right, and dedicated to that sort of thing, and I was not interested in going that far, see. I just wasn't. So I didn't take that opportunity, but I had my own, the decorators were all on the fifth floor, and I had my own little cubicle, decorated the way I wanted it, and this and that, you know, kind of heady.
Now, other people from Cody came out there.
Yes, yes, Mrs. Nielsen came out, see, when they built their home. She came out for some help, and of course, she felt in a hurry that she could do it herself and such, but she had, there again, to handle a great big house from beginning to end. I was not up to that yet, I mean, at the time. And I told her so. I didn't feel like that I was up to doing that. But there was a woman in an office next to me that had done lots of big houses. You know, it takes a lot of doing to do everything for a house from beginning to end, and I didn't want that on my shoulders. So I introduced her to her, and she worked with her. And then the same woman took Paul Stock's house and did it, see. And if I'd wanted to, I could have stumbled through both of them, but I didn't. They were friends. I didn't want to do that, you know.
Harriet came out.
Yes, that was when she was, you know, she was living with that Pauline, and going to school at the University of Utah, and she hated it because she was living with that Pauline. And of course, Dad had her with that Pauline because he felt like that, you know, but they were so much alike that they just clashed constantly. Harriet just hated it.
Did she live with you when she came out?
Yes, sir. And so she just took French leave, and she just left, and she came out there, and Dad said, is it all right? And I said, sure. So she moved in with me. By then I had an apartment, and she moved in with me and went to work at Sloan's.
What did she do?
She did office work, and on the first floor of Sloan's they had beautiful crystal and, you know, all this, all of the things that would go in a house, dishes and all this sort of thing. And they just put her in that. I don't know how I got her in, but I did. She was only 21, but she's very efficient, as you know Harriet is.
Oh.
Marvelous. And she just moved in there with that job, and then she and I just moved constantly from then on together. And she ran my life. There again, that's, you know,
She's a replacement
I'm the kind of
for
a
Dad.
person, Hank, who has to have somebody run my life. I'm not an aggressive person. And Dad ran it, and Harriet took over, and she ran it. I mean, no matter what, she took care of it for me.
Tell me about Quinn.
What about him?
Well, was it in San Francisco that you first? Okay, talk about it.
Well, I didn't see an awful lot of him there, but of course, there again, Harriet and Peg and I were all in the apartment, and all the Cody people hung out there. See, that's really what it really amounted to.
Quinn was in the Navy?
And he was in the Navy. And there were so many boys from Cody and they were all either going in, coming in, or going out. So it was a constant, going all the time.
Kind of a mini...
Yeah, just like those letters that we've sent out, those, the San Francisco Clearinghouse. And I tell you, we were a clearinghouse. And we were just worn out all the time, tired all the time, because we had so many visiting firemen. And, they'd come